And joining me now, Judith Miller, Fox News contributor. We also have Major General Bob Scales. He's a Fox News military analyst. And Ron Hosko, former FBI assistant director. Ron, let's take it to you. What do you make of the mix-up over the press conferences and the fact that they couldn't get information out, for example, to get surveillance videos? If anybody's got them, turn them over. What do you make of that?
Liz, I would have to say that with the president commenting, making some statements over at the National Counterterrorism Center, where essentially his message is, everybody take a deep breath, don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. They didn't want to have juxtaposed against that authorities, federal authorities out in L.A. laying out the case against a terrorist. Major General, what did you make of it?
Well, I think that the first thing I think, it's very important for us to realize that this is a seminal moment in the war on terrorism. Everybody so far has been focused on the jihadists. But what's important is that jihadists couldn't operate if it wasn't for the fellow travelers, the wannabes, those who operate in the periphery of these violent acts and get some sort of vicarious thrill out of enabling these horrible events. And if this guy is hammered, as he should be hammered, it'll send a signal to the rest of the world that playing with fire, terrorist fire, is going to wind up putting you in jail for about 3 decades.
What do you think, Judith?
Well, I think that what's interesting is that he is very much the kind of quintessential example of the homegrown terrorist or the homegrown radical who wants to do something but either doesn't get around to it or is thwarted or has second thoughts. What we do know is that he is a convert to Islam, and of the 71 people who were recently arrested in connection with material support for terrorism in this country, 40% of them have been converts, and a disproportionate number of those people have been Hispanic. Now, we don't really know the reasons for this, but we do know that this is one of the populations that you have to be especially vigilant about because they have a propensity to radicalize at home.
Ron, do you think the terrorist cells are sophisticated enough to know who has the propensity to be radicalized here in the United States?
I think we have a smart and learning enemy. They are paying attention to what we do. They are paying attention to news reports and discussions like this right now. They are learning from us every day. They're looking for weaknesses so that they can exploit them. In this case, what struck me about this affidavit was young Marquez. These two guys met when he was maybe 14 years old, and he converts when he's about 16. So I wonder how much of a dupe Marquez is in this thing. And Marquez is the perfect red flag to put his hand up and point at Farouk.
Major General, you know, here's the thing. How is it that terrorists can be so successful at radicalizing American citizens that they think it is the way to heaven to slaughter innocent people?
You know, that's a great question, and what Judy just said I think is very important. You can't necessarily go by ethnicity or social background to determine who's going to become radicalized. These are young, mostly men, young men who are trying to find a place in their lives like most young men are, and they're looking for an opportunity for a thrill, just like this guy did.
Judith,
well, the price is 30 years, then he ought to just give up the idea of a thrill.
That's the message. Quick final thought, Judith.
Well, we don't really know much about him. We know that he was a, quote, radicalized guy, except he also drank alcohol. We also know that at some point he had a falling out with the guy who ultimately went on, Farouk, who went on to kill these people.
All right, at least 35 years in prison, that's what he's facing.